When these three characters were first shown in the trailers and promotional material, I didn't think much of them, but then I remember that Arcane usually are good when it comes to original characters, Savika, Marcus, and Silco, so knowing that they're pretty capable of writing interesting and compelling characters, you expect some level of character depth, at least enough to justify their presence. However, after watching the season, oh boy, I was wrong. I find it to be one of the most strangest inclusions in the story. Despite their constant presence in marketing, they express almost nothing in terms of character. Their motivations, personalities, and even basic identities are barely addressed in the script. For starters, let's begin with Shield Guy, or his name being apparently Loris. Unless you've seen the subtitles, his name doesn't get mentioned towards the end of the show. Kinda shows you how much they cared about him. The main problem about his character is that we barely explore any of the basic fundamentals of a character, being personality, motivation, and characteristic. Unless you count his expressionless face, that's all you're getting from that guy when it comes to characteristics. His personality is as bare bones as it can get. The archetype he embodies is the classic shield guy, the tank of the group, caring for the people around him by taking the brunt of the attacks, being their shield. This is the most stereotypical friendly giant character I've seen. They don't explore any deeper than that. Why does Loris carry the shield and not a gun? Did something happen causing him to refuse to use any lethal force? These are interesting questions that Arcane Season 2 chooses to ignore. I find it insulting because League already has a far better version of a shield guy being Braum. Unlike Loris, Braum has charm, a sense of humor, and a backstory that explains why he's protective. Loris by comparison feels like an afterthought, being just a walking meat shield for the group. Now, would it make sense for Braum to be an Arcane? Hell no. However, he will be far more entertaining to watch than whatever Loris is doing. Right now, Loris just comes across as a discount version of Vander. I wouldn't have even thought to compare them, but one moment made it clear. When Vi woke up after being injured in Victor's sanctuary, she mistook Loris for Vander. In most shows, I wouldn't have given a second thought, but here it clicked. That's exactly what he's meant to be. He's watching over Vi, but why does she remind him of someone? Is he doing it because they used to share drinks on the streets? Maybe, but personally, I wouldn't risk taking a blade to the chest to find out. Without any explanation of his motives, it's easily assumed that it's just one of the budget Vander to stick with Vi for no real reason. Later, towards the end of the show, they managed to screw his only trait of being the shield guy. During the war between Noxus and Piltover, being the biggest and probably the most experienced of the group, you'd think he'd be fighting alongside the Forcers in the front lines. I mean, he tanked a large monster for God's sake. They're gonna be needing a piece of meat to defend them against the other monsters. No, they had the biggest tank of the group focused on being range support. Why? Couldn't they find a twink somewhere to do it? Why are we wasting a valuable asset doing a job someone else could be doing? Especially how much they were losing ground against Noxus. But no, let's leave the biggest guy throwing crates into a ship. God, this whole war is giving me Winterfell flashbacks, making me ill thinking about it. Then the Noxus soldiers stormed in and shot an arrow into Loris' neck, killing him. If only Loris had a shield to defend him against ranged attacks. What I found the most shocking wasn't his death itself, it wasn't surprising or emotional. Instead, it was the fact that the writers killed him off without exploring anything about his character. He was just gone without any depth or purpose, making his entire presence feel meaningless. What makes it frustrating is that there's a clear character hidden within. We have a scene where he talks to Vi saying if she lost anyone in the attack. Something clearly tragic happened to Loris, forcing him to drink in the alley and getting wasted. Him tagging along with Vi, watching over her, could it be that she reminds him of someone he cared about before, having some history with Noxus, with him walking out after their takeover in the government, which I wouldn't blame him. I also would have done it myself after seeing Caitlyn was main commander. I cannot help but think that if the original team had been involved in writing season 2, this character would have been genuinely interesting. But the real tragedy, out of the three, Loris is actually the most developed, so we're only going downhill from here. And that brings me to Maddie's character. Maddie is written as a naive, innocent girl with a cute face, having a cheerful, wholesome attitude, glazing over Vi even more towards Caitlyn. Throughout the series, she plays the role of Caitlyn's supportive lover, assisting her with investigations and acting as more of a personal aid than an independent character. There isn't much development or depth to her throughout Act 1 and Act 2. She simply exists in the background. Then, in Act 3, out of nowhere, she's revealed to be a spy or traitor. She suddenly hits Caitlyn over the head and points a rifle at her. My immediate reaction was,
"What the hell is even that?"
Maddie's reveal as a spy or traitor felt completely out of nowhere and didn't make sense to me. The show provided vague hints, but they weren't strong enough to raise real suspicion or build towards her betrayal in a meaningful way. Her sly remarks on Noxus, doing their salute or question about Kaylin feeling towards Noxus, these actions comes across seeming more naive and supportive than deceptive. Some might argue that this was intentional, that the writers wanted the audience to believe she was simply pretending to be naive, but for me, her actions do not align with someone secretly working as a spy. When Zahn attacked the ceremony, this would have been a perfect moment to raise suspicion about Maddie being a spy. While espionage involves some risk, spies are trained to minimize the danger as much as possible by avoiding unnecessary exposure. If she had been a spy all along, she would have known about Mbesa's plan to have Zahn attack and would have ensured her own safety by hiding beforehand. Later, she could have played up her innocence, claiming she was scared and had no idea what was happening. But no, that's not what happens. Instead, she nearly gets herself killed. A spy is a valuable asset, and you wouldn't want to place them in situations this recklessly, where they could easily die. Another scene that makes even less sense of her being a spy where Kaylin is sniping Mbesa and would have easily killed her. This is where Maddie should have revealed herself, knocking out Kate and begin using a sniper against the enforcers. Again, the argument could be that she knew about Mbesa having the item Chaotic Rukin. No, that's not how the damn item works. For those who do not know, this item creates a magic shield depending on your health. However, it only works for magic attacks. Kaylin having a sniper and classified as an ADC in the game is not in fact using any magic, but physical attacks. So realistically speaking, Mbesa's brains would have been on the ground. So yes, the way she revealed her being a spy makes zero sense. If she was a traitor, that's even worse. Why did she decide to betray Kaylin? Because she saw her scissoring with Vi? Like, if the argument is that she likes Noxus and is supportive about Mbesa's plans, I'm just gonna jump off a mountain after hearing that. Since what Mbesa is doing is something that Noxus would not be supporting, especially when she's helping a guy who wants to make everyone puppets. Ironically enough, if she was a Noxus spy, she would have been supporting Piltover's side. Maddie revealed as a spy or traitor feels more like a last minute twist than a well-developed plot point. It lacks proper setup, has reckless actions that contradicts espionage tactics, and the illogical motivations behind her betrayal. All of it makes it difficult to take her reveal seriously. Rather than adding depth to her character or story, it creates confusion and weakens the overall narrative. If the goal was to shock the audience, well, it sure did at the cost of being stupid. Lastly, Steb. Alright, that's all I have to say about him, because honestly, I have no idea what to even say. He's just there. Other than being a fishman, he barely speaks, has no clear motivation, and lacks any defining personality or characteristic. He simply follows along with whatever the other characters are doing, making him feel less like an actual character and more like a background extra who for some reason was given the spotlight. In fact, a minor side character feels more like a protagonist compared to him. The only thing of significance he does is planting a bomb, something any other character could have done, and yet in a way it's almost poetic. The bomb ultimately accomplished nothing, just like his character. These three characters might as well never been included in the story. They are barely developed, their actions make no sense, and they should remain as a background character. It's honestly disappointing, especially considering how Arcane Season 1 excelled at creating compelling side characters, memorable minor roles, and even well-developed original characters. Thanks for watching, and bye.